Hello and welcome to The Debrief. I'm your co-host. My name is Seth Ressler.
I'm Becky Scarcello.
And this is the show where we meet the creatives who are shaping Detroit. Becky, today we're talking about two of my favorite things.
Drinking?
No, actually, although that's up there. Okay. We're talking about comedy. I love stand-up comedy. You know that. Sure. And teaching, actually, because I come from a family of teachers. My sister, my mother, my brother-in-law, they're all teachers. And so I love combining the two. And that's what we are going to be talking about today. Because when I first came to Detroit several years ago, I actually took a class about comedy. Over at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle in Royal Oak. And that was how I got to know other people in town and got to, basically travel to open mics and learn the area a little bit. We now have a guest on the show who is teaching a comedy class over at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. But this comedy class is not like the one that I took, because this is a comedy class for teens. Right? So this guy is basically fostering the next generation of Detroit comedians. Yeah, want to welcome him to the show. Tim Finkel. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Seth and Becky, for having me on here today. I'm excited to talk to you.
Absolutely. So you are a teacher by trade, high school, middle school even right now. So what inspired you to get into comedy?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a bit of a lengthy story. So I've always been an enormous fan of comedy. That's what I always did for fun. I never knew the path of how to do it. I didn't know you could just decide to do comedy and then start pursuing it. It's actually a bit of a tragic story, but I had an older brother who 12 years ago had unexpectedly passed away on my 30th birthday. And kind of changed the day for me moving forward. I'm a married guy. My wife never really knew how to approach that day from that point forward. And about 6 years ago, she actually signed me up for that same class that you took, Seth. But completely unbeknownst to me, she surprised me with it. So she told me, on your birthday, make sure that you keep the day open. I got a surprise for you. I thought we were going to take the kids to the zoo or something. And she gave me an envelope that morning, and she said, I signed you up for a 6-week comedy class that ends in a grad show, and you have to leave for it in 2 hours from now. Make sure you bring a notebook. Wow. And it was a great way to do it, springing it on me like that. I remember that enthusiasm and anticipation I had was very similar to the first time she told me we were going to have a kid. Like, I didn't know if I could do it. I didn't know if I was going to be able to rise to the occasion. But as you know how it goes, Seth, the class went really well. The grad show went fantastic. And then you just get addicted to one of the most addictive drugs you could ever be addicted to, which was laughter. So what inspired me to do the class, though, is, my comedy career from there just kind of snowballed, and, I kept going up as much as I could, and kept, getting more gigs and things like that. And just before the pandemic, actually, Bill Bouchard, who teaches the class, went out of town and contacted me and asked me if I could substitute teach for his class for 2 weeks, which was an enormous honor for me. The class had really paved my way in comedy and really helped me to, get over all those growing pains that you have when you first start. As Becky, you introduced me, I've been a teacher for 21 years now. So marrying those two things together just seemed like a really natural progression. So I love teaching the adult class. And then just this past year, after coming out of the pandemic here, things started opening. Bill Bouchard approached me and said, he did a teen class 2 years ago, and he said it went well, but it also exposed him to how inept he is to talking to that age group. And that's something that I do all day. So, it's very natural for me. And he said, I truly feel it's an untapped market. I really think it's something that can develop into something very big, and offered it up to me. And, I spoke to Mark Ridley about it. I spoke to Mary over at the castle, and we decided to go forward with it. And we're starting June 23rd. So, in about a week here. So I'm thrilled about it. Dave Chappelle started when he was 14 years old. I don't know a single comic out there that says, I wish, I started later in life. Every single comic I talk to says, I wish I would have started earlier. Who knows where I'd be today. And then, the other part about it too is throughout my process in comedy, it really I came to it out of tragedy. So it taught me that if I can laugh, I can heal. And, we've all been through adolescence. It's brutal. It's a very difficult time in life. And truthfully, the kids this past year have, in my opinion, had it worse than we have because they don't have those skills of resiliency yet. And, they don't, their lives changed more than ours did, even though we might not think that way. So I thought, the angle that I really want to approach this class with is promoting mental health, promoting self-awareness and self-confidence. And, there's a lot of different ways a teenager can do that. They can play sports, they can, get into music and things like that, but not all kids fit into that box. And I thought this would be a great avenue to present to kids and see where we can go from here. So I'm incredibly excited to see what happens with it.
That is awesome. Well, as a mom of two, one's a teen, one's actually older than a teen now, but I think they're naturally funny. They make me laugh every day. But you're spot on. This past year has been so rough for them as they enter adulthood. And this is really cool because not everybody fits into the traditional paths of extracurriculars, as you say. So what's on your syllabus? Like what actual things are you teaching?
Sure. Yeah. So, day one, I've always said that anyone who wants to pursue this, there is something terminally wrong with you. There's something that went off the rails at one point in your life. And day one, I want to identify what that is. I want to know why the kids decided that they can do this, why they would even, have the gumption to want to do it, why you would even have the confidence to approach this. And I really want to find out the kids' stories on day one, because truthfully, as with any art and specifically comedy or writing of any kind, the main goal of it is to find your voice and your own perspective. And through doing that, you kind of figure out your place in the world, right? So day one, I want to really hone in on what are each individual student's perspective? Where are they coming from? And once we figure that out, that's where you start mining the comedy. Because you want it to be authentic to them. You want it to be about their experience. So from there, then we'll start mining the comedy. So then we'll get into the nitty gritty of writing and things like that, and joke structure, and the do's and don'ts of comedy, the common mistakes people use when they first start, and things like that, and move forward from there.
So what sort of lessons that you've learned in the classroom of your 20 plus years of teaching do you think are going to help you in this?
Well, as you said before, kids are hilarious. If you think about how many classic comedies there are out there that are coming of age stories, adolescence is awkward. There's a reason why it's so funny. So the lessons that I've learned through teaching is just the power of being able to empower a student of that age, that what they think is the worst thing that could possibly happen to them, or the most monumental flaw, is very minor in the long run. And if you can teach a kid to laugh about that, in my opinion, there's nothing more empowering than that.
That's so true.
Tim, I'm going to tell you right now, if the next time I go to the castle, I find either gum underneath the seat of the chairs or somebody has carved their initials into one of the tables, I'm blaming you. So,
yeah, that's probably good.
How about mistakes in the classroom? I'm sure you had your share of missteps with this age group. What sort of things have you learned mistake-wise in the classroom?
In terms of teaching, it's just not to over-prepare. I always go with that Mike Tyson quote that anyone can plan to win a fight. It's after you get clapped in the jaw, what you do next that matters.
Yeah.
Right? So in the classroom, I mean, you can spend all night planning something, and it could just go completely off the rails. And how you're going to adapt from that really sets different teachers apart from there. So, I mean, just the ability to stay loose, and I've always prided myself on improvisational teaching, and really capitalizing on teachable moments. So, when things come up that are awkward, or a student's doing something they're not supposed to be doing, kind of dropping everything at that moment and teaching, like, look, this is a teachable moment. This is why we can't do this, and moving forward from there. So yeah, absolutely. You can have a structure and a framework in a classroom, but you can't overplan. You can't think that everything is going to go according to plan.
Yeah, especially with teens, I would say that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And then just the ability to listen too. A lot of kids just want to be listened to. They've been talked at plenty. So if you can just take the time to listen, it can be painful and annoying.
Yeah, I know.
And take an incredible amount of patience. But if you just sit and listen to a kid, you can learn a lot.
How about for other artists, other types of creatives? Do you have any advice for when you're taking an art form that you've gotten good at yourself and now you're wanting to switch over to teach it to other people? Would you have advice for doing that?
Yeah, so my biggest advice is to learn how to fail, and then not only learn how to fail, but just how to embrace failure. Because especially in the beginning, but even after you get proficient at something, ultimately you're gonna fail more times than you succeed. And even those times when you succeed, you're always going to measure it against whatever your best success was. So I've found even, the better I get at comedy, and comedy is a never-ending road. There's no end to it. You're never like, okay, I'm a finished product now. I'm a comedian. My act's perfect. There's no such thing as that. There's no such thing as a perfect set. And I've always learned that, you're always going to measure everything you did against whatever the best version of it that it was. Like, so whenever you had like the greatest set, even if you have a really good set after that, you're going to measure it against that. And then even if you top that, if you're good and you're on the right path and you're critical, which is what makes comics good, you're going to think, there's been many times I've come off stage and friends or family that are there say, that was a great set, you killed. And all I thought about was like that one line I had a little hiccup on. So
Maggie's going to start quoting you to me, I know, because of what I say after every podcast episode. Oh, it was good, but
there's that. But it does. It helps you get continuously better. It really does.
And it's a good thing. I mean, I think the moment you start thinking like that was perfect, what I did was perfect, then you're dead in the water. Right. I mean, you gotta be critical. So I think that to answer your question, just that advice is to not only learn to fail, but learn to embrace it and learn to know that it's a tool to get you to the next step.
Yeah. All right, Tim, we've got one last question that we ask everybody who comes on the show. Here we go.
Okay, Tim Finkel, stand-up comedian and teen comedy class instructor. Name for us a Detroit creative everyone should know.
My go-to is always Mark Ridley. Mark Ridley, who started the Comedy Castle 42 years ago. He's maintained keeping the doors open there through incredibly adverse times, through the ups and downs, when it's been great, when it's been terrible. He's kept it going the entire time, and the reason he's been able to do that is he has passion behind what he does. He's a unique club owner. compared to some of the others I've worked with, because I think he loves comedy just as much as, he loves having a business around it. He loves seeing local artists succeed. I think he loves booking headliners who came up through the scene in Detroit. And, even throughout this past year, when it's been very difficult for any kind of performing art, he's been an ambassador of doing the right thing and making sure that we're gonna keep going forward, and we're gonna keep providing these opportunities for people to laugh.
Yeah, I want to second that. I mean, I've had a couple of conversations with Mark, and we've had him on the show over the years, and he's one of the good guys. He's one of the businesses that you want to succeed, and everything you said it so well. Tim Finkel, thank you so much for coming on the show. People can go to comedycastle.com. That's the Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle website, and they can get details on the class. It starts on June 23rd, but even if you're hearing this for the first time after it started, don't be shy about calling them up and saying, hey, I want to take the comedy class. And thank you for teaching this. I think this is a great thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what it grows into, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to get the message out.
All right. Thanks, Tim. That's it for us here at The Debrief. I'm Seth Ressler.
I'm Becky Scarcello.
And there's plenty of ways that you can find this show, whether it's Apple Podcasts, whether it's Spotify, you can ask Alexa for it. Even some of the episodes you can find on YouTube as well. Until next time, Detroit's moving.
Keep up.